Okay, so in our next model, there's two issues that I noticed right away when I opened this file up. One is that when I click on it to select any of the items within the model, I get a bounding box indicating that the entire thing is grouped. So what this means is that this is one big group. If I double click on it to open it up, there's multiple groups within. So we've got kind of a group within a group issue. And the quickest way to deal with that is to right click and do explode on just the group that you don't want grouped. Now I can now see that I've got several closed groups as well as an open group down below. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to triple click on that and then right click and make that a group as well. I can also go ahead and just select some of the stuff that's just fragment out here and delete it. Okay, so we don't want to get into making multiple groups within groups yet, and the way you make a multiple group, or the way you group several things together, is by selecting them and then right-clicking and making it a group. If I do that, I'm now grouping things within inside of larger groups, and I'm not quite ready to get to that point yet. So I'm just going to do an Apple Z or a undo, take that back. Go ahead and delete that stuff. We're not quite to the point where we want to start making groups within groups within groups. We'll get to that a little bit later. But first things first, just make sure that everything is all its own individual group. As long as you start with a shape and then right away go to your select tool every time, double click on it, right click, and then make that a group. And then open it up and do what you need to do, whether it be push pull or divide or anything like that. As long as you do that every time, that's the only time right now that you need to be grouping. You do not need to be grouping things like openings because that's like a void. We'll talk about that in a second as well. So that's issue one. Just go ahead and make everything its own group. Try not to group within groups. The second issue I can see here right away is that these shapes are flickering. You notice that when I move around, I can see that there's kind of like a staticky effect. And what this is, I'm going to go ahead and hide this. What this is this is showing me that I've got shapes that are, first of all, ungrouped, but even if they were grouped, they're sitting on top of another group. I'm going to go ahead and unhide that group. So when I've got two shapes sitting on top of each other like this, but they're not a part of one another, they basically compete for my visibility or to be seen, because I'm seeing the underside of one thing and the top side of something else at the same time. So I'm seeing a little bit of both. You want to make sure that your rectangle or your shape that you draw on the wall or on any shape is happening on the face while that group is open. So if I go ahead and select my rectangle tool and click like that, I can see right away that I've got two different faces. And now I can easily take my push-pull and push it through on this face here till I get to the inside and then click. And that's going to be a successful opening. These openings here are sitting on top of this closed group. So if I try to push-pull this through, it's going to push-pull through, but what's happening is I've got now a solid sitting on top of and through another solid. So the best way to handle this would be to open this up, go ahead and make a rectangle where that other rectangle is. If I want, I can double click on that and go to my move tool and hit my copy button and make a copy from one to the next and then times 4, because there's 4 more rectangles. And then I'm going to open this or close that group, select this stuff that's sitting on top using my drag method from left to right, and then delete that because I don't need those anymore. I also don't need this because this looks like an attempt at push-pulling something through that was not connected to the group because the group wasn't open. So I'm going to delete these as well. Whoops. Go ahead and open this up, delete this guy. Alright, so now I've got my group. And now I can open this up and successfully push-pull. Whoops. Take that back, push-pull through. And I'm just being nice and deliberate. Clicking once to start, I take my finger off of the left click button and I move the mouse so that I'm seeing that the front face is now touching the back face, and I'm going to click again. So I just do a nice, clean, deliberate action every time. And notice I'm zooming in and out and then clicking from one to the next. Okay, So that is how to solve that. And I would do the same thing with this, but you get the idea. The other thing I'm noticing with the stairs here is that we've got some kind of warped geometry. Let's go ahead and select this. Let's go ahead and hide everything else that's around the stairs so we can see it a little easier. I'm going to go ahead and delete this and delete this. Looks like that's part of the stairs. Okay, so what's happening here when I open the stairs up is I've got another group inside. And it looks like I've basically just got a group inside of a group, and there's really no reason for that. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to explode that. Now what happens when I click on this to open it up is this is all one bit of geometry. So this is all interacting together. So if I try to select parts of it and start rotating, it's going to start skewing because it's all stuck together. This is a perfect example of why we want to group everything individually. If you were actually building a set of stairs in real life, you'd use lots of parts and pieces. You wouldn't build them all using one giant block that you start carving around and carving through. So SketchUp is the same way. You kind of want to think a little bit real world. So what I'm going to do instead of this is a perfect example of a time when you might want to just start over with something because this isn't that complicated and it's not really worth fixing. It's going to take a lot longer to fix than it would to just start over. So for the sake of time, and I'm not going to worry as much about the measurements, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start with one rectangle. This is going to be my bottom step. I'm going to double click on that, right click, make it a group. I do this every time you start with anything fresh. Now open this up and go to my push pull that up, and I'll just go ahead and match one of the stair heights over here. So there's my first stair. Right click and close that. Now I can, let's go ahead and move these stairs out of the way just a little bit. And I think we can probably safely get rid of this little line because that seems like a fragment as well. Now I can safely go to my move tool and make a copy from this corner by clicking on this corner, the bottom corner, and then clicking on that top corner there like that. Now I click to be done. I can zoom out and do times, for the sake of this demonstration, let's just say 12, enter. So there are my stairs. Now this, I guess I misspoke a little bit when I said we don't want to group things within each other yet, because we do want to group this as one big thing. Because this is 1, 2, 3, and so on, individual groups. They're all individual clean little groups that I can move and open up and edit without affecting the other ones. But this as a total piece is going to be the stairs. So what I'll do is I'll select each one of those stairs by using my click and drag method. Now I'm going to right click and make that a group as well. So what I have is one big group. This big box is protecting all of these little boxes inside, and all of these little boxes are individual groups as well. Now I can select the ones that I want to rotate, and I can, by highlighting them, and then I can go to my rotate tool, get nice and close to the corner I want to use as a rotation point, make sure that I'm on the blue axis because I want to rotate along the blue axis, click from that point, click to another point, and then just rotate 90 degrees. Now I can move these into place if I want to move from this point into that point, and I can turn this step into a landing. So I'll go ahead and open up that one group, and I'll go to my push-pull, and I'll click from this point, and then I'll get nice and close to this point and touch it, and then click again. So I'm not holding down on the left click when I'm moving from that point, from point A to point B. Once I'm done, I can go ahead and close that. I've just closed this group here. I'm still inside this group, and I can see that because I've got a little dotted line bounding box around it. To close that, I can close it by clicking outside. Now I can go ahead and take that extra bit and delete it. This is, of course, not to scale in any way, but I just wanted to show you that you want to treat your stairs as individual objects. All right, that's it for this one.